as the president is there trying to forge trade deals, maybe trying to get help finding peace with Iran, how do Americans feel about the president's work vis-a-vis China? With us now, CNN chief data analyst Harry Enten. You know, China was a big part of the president's initial campaign.
Oh, yeah.
Being tough on China, a big part of the first administration. Kind of different now, but how have Americans' views of the president on China shifted?
You know, in term number one, China was a strength for Donald Trump. Americans really liked what he was doing vis-a-vis China. And no longer is that the case, because just take a look at Trump's net approval rating on China. In term number one, he was at plus 9 points. Hey, that's pretty gosh darn good, right on the positive side of the ledger. They liked the way Trump was dealing with China. But down he goes into the Red Sea, now at minus 15 points. That's a drop of nearly 25 points from where he was in term number one to now. Americans like the way that Trump was dealing with China in term number one. That is no longer the case.
Which groups might be fueling this?
What groups might be fueling this? Okay, two groups might be fueling this. How about independents? In term number one, Trump was at plus 9 points on China in terms of his net approval rating. Look at where he is now. This is the story of Trump's second term. Things that were strong for him, like the economy in term number one, have become major weaknesses, especially among independents. Now we're talking about minus 42 points among independents. That is a switcheroo of over 50 points in the wrong direction. Again, into the deep Red Sea. How about non-college whites? In Trump term number one, it was plus 34 points. Again, now we're talking about a negative number with a group that is so important to him. So what we've seen here again is China is such an important country in this world, right? It's a big superpower. Dealing with them is so important to how Americans view their presidents. And in term number one, Trump was much better liked than he is in term number two. Down into the Red Sea, we'll see if Americans like the way he's dealing with them right now overseas when we get the latest poll.
We're talking about the polls on Trump about China, but how's China doing in the polls?
Yeah, okay, so you see that Trump is struggling here with China in the United States. How about worldwide? And you just see it right here. I mean, just take a look. Net worldwide approval rating of China has actually improved from where Biden was in term number one for him versus where Trump is in term number two at this point. The latest numbers we have in 2025. Look at that, minus 11 to minus 1. China's image is improving. The United States image going down. Look at this. It was plus 11 points in 2021 for Biden, year number one. The latest numbers we have for Trump, or at least for the United States under Trump, look at that, minus 15. That's a switcheroo of over 25 points. So China's image improving, the United States image going down under Trump, just like his own numbers on China going down here in the United States.
We'll see if that changes over the next few days during this summit. Harry Enten, thank you very much.
Thank you, Johannes.
Also on the agenda are the 4 T's, as you can see there: trade, tariffs, tech, and Taiwan. With us, our chief U.S. National Affairs correspondent, Jeff Zeleny, and CNN's Mike Valerio, who is in Beijing. Jeff, let me start with you, because this isn't exactly, of course, the trip that President Trump had envisaged, with the war in Iran looming large. The president at this time yesterday said he didn't need any help. Today, he says he wants long talk with Iran. What is he looking for, and what leverage does he have here?
Well, Issa, good evening. There is no doubt that President Trump arriving in Beijing with significantly less leverage than he ever would have hoped. I mean, this trip initially was scheduled some 6 weeks ago. The president postponed it for a while because of the Iran war. The White House was very confident it would end quickly, so President Trump would arrive in Beijing for this much heralded summit in a far different position. Well, he is in a different position, but it's not one of strength. It simply is not one of a strong posture here. So there's no doubt that President Trump is going to be eager to discuss Iran. The bigger question is President Xi going to effectively weigh in here and offer a bit of a hand? And if so, in exchange for what? And there's no doubt that the Strait of Hormuz, the blockage of that, has affected worldwide markets. But it's also affected the ability of the U.S. and the U.S. president to effectively make a strong agreement or have a strong upper hand in these deals. So I am just struck by the vast difference of 10 years ago. I recall well being in Beijing with President Trump on his first visit. He's arriving in a weaker position, there is no question, and China is strengthened by that. So it's unclear what will come out of it, but the leverage, it would seem to me, is resting on a President Xi's side, not President Trump's side.
Let me pose that question. Stay with us, Jeff. Let me pose that question to Mike, because the question of Iran that Jeff was posing there, and we're trying to get to bottom of, is one that is going to fascinate us for the next couple of days. Because sources I've seen, Mike, have been telling us that China views the conflict with Iran, and in fact, the kind of the quagmire it faces, as having potentially strengthened its negotiating position with President Trump. What more can you tell us about this? And do we have a sense of how far that question that Jeff was posing there, how far Xi Jinping would go and would like to see in return?
I think in return, it's going to be either Taiwan, tech, or tariffs. We reduce it to the 3 T's here at 2 a.m. as we're running low on sleep in Beijing. But I think that Jeff is exactly right, that really why the card is so much stronger from Beijing's point of view, their Trump card, is because of rare earth minerals. That was the strongest card that Beijing had in the first round of trade negotiations in the nadir of the trade war. But when you think about it, Issa and Jeff, what has the United States depleted over the past month, 2 months of the Iran conflict? It's missiles, its supply of munitions, and that all runs on rare earth minerals. So the United States essentially needs that spigot to be open now more than ever. So it's not just help with the war in Iran and to reopen the Strait of Hormuz for the sake of global commerce that the Trump administration needs, but we're also hearing from analysts or people within the corridors of the Pentagon that rare earth minerals, as the United States rebuilds its stockpile of missiles, needs to continue to flow out of Beijing's monopoly over the processing of rare earth minerals. But it's interesting, all throughout the day today and yesterday, we were out on the streets of Beijing as we're sort of making our way from the second ring road where we are right now into the historic core of Beijing. People, to a person, everybody we interviewed, do not want China to get involved in this war that the United States and Israel started. We have some sound we're going to play, and we'll talk about it on the other side.
中立方的话，就是我们就是不建议过多的去干预这种事情嘛。
因为中方他的交易不是他那个外交原则不就是不干预吗？对啊，所以他不会去做那些特别那个啥，他只会呼吁一下，然后他不会出手做具体措施。
我对他没有好印象，因为那个美伊战争也是他那个挑起来的。你看之前打经济贸易战，不是也是他吗？
Okay, so what China wants in return, let's talk about Taiwan. They certainly want to change in the United States' position from the United States not supporting Taiwanese independence, moving the semantics ever so slightly to the United States potentially opposing Taiwanese independence. Secretary of State Marco Rubio said a couple days ago, I think 2 days ago, that that's not going to happen. But this administration is certainly unpredictable. With tech, that last guy that we heard from, he said that he personally has took a major financial hit with his beauty business, relying on advanced American chips that have been cut off during the first Trump administration from flowing into China. So China definitely wants those advanced AI, specifically NVIDIA chips, to be able to be sold in China. Right now they can't because of American export controls, with the administration saying that they want to protect America's AI lead that is in place right now. And tariffs, Jeff certainly knows this. There are a ton of tariffs, Section 301 investigations, that are still in place from the first Trump administration, kept in place by the Biden administration, and Beijing wants them out of the picture. And I think also people back home in America and around the world should know that President Trump started this first trade war just months after the first trip to Beijing that he took in November of 2017. There was the visit to the Forbidden City, the private dinner, the private tour with Xi Jinping. Melania was there as well. Everything was great, so it seemed, in terms of the optics and the pageantry that was on display. And then in January of the following year, in 2018, that was the first round of tariffs. And then in March, the second round of tariffs, and that's when the first trade war began. So a lot to be seen in terms of the pageantry and everybody on their best behavior. But of course, a lot can happen during these next 2 days and certainly afterwards.
Indeed. Let me go back to Jeff, if you don't mind, just for a second, because we were talking about Taiwan, and I think it's important because I have been seeing, Jeff, senators on both sides of the aisle warning about US not changing its position on Taiwan. Are you getting any clarity on whether, I mean, semantics matter here in such a way they could destabilize the whole region?
No question. I mean, it really is one of the few things that senators largely find bipartisan agreement on, but it's also one of the very few things that President Trump almost never weighs in on. If he's asked about this, and of course he often is, it is something that he does not talk or telegraph about. It's something that he simply does not want to talk about. So there's no indication that there's a new U.S. position at all, but there certainly is a quiet worry or wonder if that would happen here. So of course, all eyes are on that. But again, it's one of the rare things that President Trump seldom shows his hand or discusses what he's actually thinking about this, Isa.
Jeff and Mike, thank you very much, gentlemen. Appreciate it.